I said it yesterday, and I'm warning you today. This is going to be a salt video because a certain popular figure in the Pokemon community has berated and insulted me for believing that Meltan is a Generation 8 Pokemon. Well, let's see this new trailer from the Pokemon Company. So we have 2016 Generation 7 Pokemon, we have 2019 Generation 8 Pokemon. There's Meltan, there's Melmetal. I am definitely getting my money's worth out of this Monster Cat subscription, but Meltan is a Generation 8 Pokemon, and this ties in with Pokemon Day, hashtag Pokemon 2020. It's going to be pretty cool. So from February 5th to 14th, if you want to see the actual news about this, check it out. It was my other video. I'll have it in the description down below, or you can find it on my channel. Now, the video was taken down because it was accidentally uploaded early, but this shows us a lot of really interesting things, like Meltan being exclusive to the Generation 8 Pokemon and not their Generation 7 buddies or anything like that. Now things are about to get pretty fancy. And also, if we just go further into this trailer, it kind of gets weird because they're showing off a lot of the cool things that are relevant and current in Pokemon, and they have Pokemon Let's Go alongside other Generation 8 things like the new Pokemon anime, the new Pokemon movie, Pokemon Sword and Shield, and the TCG. So it's like, Let's Go is in a generational limbo, and it looks like the new Pokemon inside of Let's Go didn't really determine if it was Generation 7 or not, and it's hard to really figure out where Pokemon Let's Go stands at this time. Either way, let's get into what happened and how this broke down. So let's go back to this Reddit post from Cerebi over a year ago, because that's how long this has been going on. This is 2018, guys. So the nut Pokemon isn't number 891 and is a Generation 7 Pokemon, not Generation 8. And if you disagreed with Joe Merrick in any way, you would get in an argument and likely insulted by Joe Merrick, who is the webmaster of Cerebi. So Cerebi is Joe Merrick, for those of you who are confused. Every once in a while, a couple people get confused whenever I bring up Joe Merrick or Cerebi like this, and it's because I believe that Joe Merrick has developed a god complex over the last couple of years. Whatever's been going on in the Pokemon community, or whatever has happened with his social media presence just growing and growing off of Cerebi, it's really gotten to his head, and it's been really sad to see. And it's gotten to the point where Joe Merrick frequently overcommits to his logic and cannot admit when he is wrong, and has now been posting a lot of incorrect information on Cerebi when it comes to new games and information like that. So it's also having an impact on the news site as well. But what ended up happening is that when Meltan was teased even, or being revealed and stuff, naturally it was data mined, and it came out that Meltan's index number was 891 in Pokemon Go. Now, the index number is not going to directly be the Pokedex number, but we don't know how Pokemon Go works. So he was trying to use main series game logic from generations ahead of where Pokemon Go was to just kind of come up with the conclusion that Meltan was a Generation 7 Pokemon. Now, I made a video response countering his argument because I really didn't like that he was using the weight of Cerebi to assert that Meltan is only a Generation 7 Pokemon, and it was by using this logic, which we still don't even know. Pokemon Go hasn't even gotten to Generation 6, so we don't even know how the ID or index numbers of Pokemon Go works since the generational change that started at a fresh one. So yeah, 649 was the end of Generation 5. The first Generation 6 Pokemon started at 701. So until Generation 6, it was actually going to where the ID numbers were going to be represented as the National Dex numbers, and that's why people were thinking that Meltan could just be Pokemon number 891, which would suggest a gap from Zeraora to that, and then give us an idea about Generation 8 before Generation 8 has come out. Can we use Pokemon Go for that? Who knows, but Joe Merrick immediately tried to debunk that, and I didn't think his logic was sound. So this is him talking about, actually this is straight him lying about me. He just didn't understand what I was actually saying. He read my explanation of Mega Blastoise as 951 being 951 and made a point that it destroyed my reasoning. False. He didn't even watch my video then, because I have all of his information right there. I'm talking about it. I'm even giving examples as to what he is talking about that goes deeper in, kind of showing the difference between ID numbers and National Dex numbers and stuff like that. So I clearly fully understood what he was trying to say. I just disagreed with it, but because it's a disagreement, he immediately blocks it out. Also in the video, I clearly say 951. To show this 9_51 because Blastoise is Pokedex number 9, and then 51 being a tag for Mega Evolutions. I do not say 951. but he's lying about that. So he was going into other threads and then suggesting that I was just misrepresenting him when he was the one that was actually lying about something I had actually said. So did you even read the post you hovered over for 12 minutes? I mean, I read it in my video. The Alola form ones matching exactly as proof, and now he's just kind of like, this is proof, this is the only way it can be, Meltan is only Generation 7, etc, etc. So the file naming scheme matches. Try actually researching some before that. How is that proof? Since Generation 6 starts and Go, will they change the IDs to 700? And that was pretty much all I was saying. I was like, we don't know if it's proof yet, because Generation 6 hasn't come out in Pokemon Go, and we don't know how Pokemon Go is going to handle Meltan for a potential Generation 8. I didn't realize that Blastoise, a Generation Pokemon, was introduced in Generation 6. My bad. Never said that. Same thing for like the Alolans and stuff, so I don't understand it. And then this is a classic. It's from 2016, but Joe Merrick, he did get kind of pegged for Generation 7 with new Pokemon equaling new generation. So now, you know, 2016 Joe Merrick doesn't agree with 2018 Joe Merrick. It's kind of weird. And look at this. 2 April 2016. So this was like as we were getting into Pokemon Sun and Moon. Pokemon Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon changed everything because we got new Pokemon and stayed explicitly in Generation 7, just kind of added on to that. And now Meltan got splashed in at a really weird time. Then another argument I made in my videos about this is that Magearna was revealed before we even had the announcement of Pokemon Sun and Moon, and ended up being a Generation 7 Pokemon. We didn't know if it was like the latest Gen 6 possible, if it was going to be like a Gen 6.5 in some kind of weird way that they're trying to tie it in. So if anything, Meltan feels like that Generation 7.5, but more leaning towards 8 kind of way that they just kind of dropped it in. So I was comparing Meltan to Magearna. That was just a super early tease for the new generation, which puts Meltan in Generation 8, much like we've seen for the Pokemon movies, Pokemon games, stuff like that, because we have Pokemon Ranger. Pokemon Ranger is a Generation 3 game, but that gives you the egg for Generation 4 Manaphy. Also, if you look at the movies, Lucario, Mr. of Mew, tons of Generation 4 Pokemon that before Generation 4 was revealed. Destiny Deoxys was like a hard Generation 3 movie, and we had Munchlax, a Generation 4 Pokemon, being revealed years before. XD Gale of Darkness, that's another game that had Pokemon that were just way ahead of their time, and Joe Merrick just really can't understand that. So he really seems to can't handle differing views. Okay, really? He said that? Okay. I didn't notice the grammar. He really seems to can't handle differing views. It's a shame. I've re-blocked him because I don't need this grief anymore. I never tweeted any harassment at him. It would be that I say something and then Joe Merrick just hops in, or I respond to Joe Merrick in a non-aggressive way, and then it just turns into an argument. But started getting to the point when, as he was like on the brink of blocking me on Twitter, he was the one that was just like seeking out and trying to disprove me at most of my tweets I was making at the time. It was really weird. And just everything thus far matches. I didn't think everything thus far matched because we didn't have Generation 6 data in Pokemon Go. I mean, if you actually researched, I did, and you can see the research in my videos and the words I'm saying in that video, you would see this, but I guess that doesn't get views. I wasn't clickbaiting anything. I was just like, I don't think Meltan's a Generation 7 Pokemon for reasons. Okay then, so yeah, like now here's where the irony comes in, because Joe Merrick is like, Joe Merrick says I can't handle differing views, when the rest of this video is pretty much just going to show that he can't handle differing views. You have deemed your claims infallible and ignored me refuting every claim. I have proven time and time again the hate bandwagon is nonsense. Sad to see someone so logical be blinded by the hate bandwagon. Also, give proof of inconsistency, please. And that's another thing. Like, Joe Merrick was accusing me of so many things. I was like, please give proof. Please give an example of all of these things you are claiming about me, and he never did. So yeah, and they just would change the argument. You keep deflecting, you keep attacking me over something that he can't even prove. Do you not see practically the entire community agreeing? People agreeing doesn't make something right. If one day everyone said the sky is green, no, the sky's still blue. People continually send you these things, and you continually dismiss it as if you can do no wrong. I've never said I can do no wrong. Everything that people have sent me, I don't dismiss, I debunk. I haven't dismissed anything presented against me. I always prove it wrong if it's wrong. It's not a bandwagon nonsense when it's practically the entire community agrees. Yeah, we have this mass hate delusion that's been going on, and have you seen Trump derangement syndrome? Have you seen what's been going on in politics? It's possible for millions of people to just camp a hate side. I've been saying this since like 2015. Tribalism is getting out of control, and now all it is just outrage and cancel culture and hate mobs trying to take down everything they disagree with, even if they're not on the right. So I've given proof already. Read it. I read it and I responded and I gave reasons as to why I don't agree with it. But apparently Joe Merrick, disagreeing with him makes you a narcissist. There's no arguing with people with narcissistic personality disorder. I'm done with you. That is like one of the most ironic things, because someone saying, I'm done with you, is about as narcissistic as it gets. And as we'll see, if it isn't a god complex, then it's like extreme narcissism that has taken over Joe Merrick. I've proven many points, but you are so narcissistic that you are unable to comprehend the notion of you being wrong. So him responding to me again and just like using that narcissism, that's like his main argument. He just sticks to something he thinks is a zinger and just sticks on it. You need help. This is not the person you need to be. And I have said that this is very likely projection from Joe Merrick. Just that everything so far matches. I mean, if you actually research, you would see that this, but I guess it doesn't get views. Oh yeah, that's also following up from one of these. Sorry, it's out of order. This happened years ago, and I said this is an assault video. This isn't going to be like the most structured video. It's just kind of be clear how like crazy Joe Merrick has been. You didn't even watch my video then. I showed and said what you presented and did my research. Doesn't change the fact that your post literally isn't proof. You did nothing to prove that the ID system is the same once Generation 6 rolls around, and then he admits that's because I lack a time machine. So he admits his post isn't proof, but then he just kind of keeps asserting that he has to be correct. However, the assets match thus far in file names, etc., indicating that's the same system. But if it's the same system, then that means it's going to be national decks up until Generation 6, which is what we have, so we don't know if Meltan is suddenly going to be the magical shift, because we have a Generation 7 or 8 Pokemon being put into a spin-off game, Pokemon Go, in the middle of like Generations 4 and 5. It makes things very confusing, and that's why you can't use it as proof, Joe Merrick. Either way, and then, once again, I'm done with you again. So, Joe Merrick just unblocks me to like harass me and then blocks me again. And I want to remind everyone of the really shitty things that Joe Merrick ended up doing after this. He sent me a false copyright strike on one of my videos to try to harm my channel and harm my livelihood. It ended up being revoked because he didn't have a valid copyright claim. He also got me removed from YouTube gaming promotion. So I got a tweet. I got promoted. You know, join Verless Wolf for his playthrough now in Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. And then Joe Merrick had that tweet deleted. That's for no reason. Like, at this point, he'd already blocked me. We already had our argument, but now he had a vendetta and he was out to, you know, pressure other people into keeping me canceled. He also witch hunted my private Twitter that I just used to skim news now since I've been suspended on Twitter. And the reason I got suspended is I called the person that doxed me worthless. Because apparently that's silencing someone's voice according to Twitter rules. That gets you banned. Doxing me didn't get that person banned. It's very strange. Society, online culture, it's ill right now, and I think that just kind of like proves all these other things. Because obviously, the community is correct at that point. Doxing me, sending me death threats, constant witch hunts, harassment well beyond, exponentially beyond anything I've ever said about another person in my life, let alone on social media. That makes me in the wrong, guys. So, it's just crazy, and then just like, I need to keep making sure this is known, because people honestly believe to this day that I blocked Joe Merrick. I never blocked him once. He blocked me multiple times. He would unblock me just to start a fight, to block me again, and then make some kind of invalid, you know, statement about how I clickbait or how I'm a narcissist or something like that. And it's just ridiculous. And I'm sorry, guys, I wasn't expecting that, like, intro to be as long as it was, but that's how bad this entire situation has been, and then just scale it to the entire Pokemon community. It's toxic, it's a mess right now, and I've only wanted what's best for the Pokemon community, and I only want to move us forward, and the only way of doing that is by kind of making the problems known. You can't ignore problems, pretend everything is perfect, and expect things to get better. That is not how life works. But looks like it's time for Joe Merrick to eat some humble pie, and he's been conveniently avoiding this. I've seen at least a dozen people tweet Joe Merrick with the video showing Meltan in Generation 8. He hasn't acknowledged it, but if someone tweets him that Meltan, like before all of this happened, if someone tweeted, hey, Meltan's a Generation 8 Pokemon, he would hop on them immediately, and he has been tweeting in that time frame. He's been tweeting through that time frame. Nothing to be said. It is very strange that he's not even trying to argue or defend it. And it's just going back into how much he doubled down about it. You know, at Feint Attacks, Meltan is also Generation 7. No, it makes Meltan a Generation 7 Pokemon. And that's another thing, like, he said that he never stated this as fact, but when you look at all of his statements, he really asserts it as fact. You know, it makes Meltan a Generation 7 Pokemon. That's a pretty definitive statement. Constantly tweeting out his Reddit post, and just pretty much anytime anything came up, he was on it. It's not. Pokemon XD was a spin-off title. Bonsai was in one tiny part of it. Pokemon Let's Go is a main series Pokemon title. Meltan is available completely to keep. Let's Go is a Generation 7 game, which means new Pokemon available in it are also Generation 7. So no matter what happened, like, this is what I mean. I also had that, like, those other examples where it's like Magearna was revealed before Pokemon Sun and Moon was announced. So it's like, where do we go, like, reveals versus when it actually ends up in the game versus when it's in a generation or something, because we have seen many examples. I don't think it matters if it's a spin-off game if a Generation 4 Pokemon appears in multiple Generation 3 Pokemon, because there's the mention of Lucario in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Red Rescue Team, and Blue Rescue Team. We have XD Gale of Darkness, we have Pokemon Ranger. We have a lot of times where this has happened, and then the transfer things kind of screw it up, but Pokemon Let's Go is in a really weird state. And then weeks later, he's still going on about this, because if Joe Merrick sees anything that differs to what he believes, he needs to set out to change it or take it down, such as giving me a copyright strike, and also what he did with the YouTube gaming stuff. Need to bring this up again since Silph Road decided to declare 891 to be Meltan's national dex number. Tweet, and then Joe Merrick is still going on about asset IDs. I realized that earlier on the video, I was saying like index numbers or ID values and stuff like that. Throughout this entire discussion, it's been about the asset IDs, and since this was over a year ago and I stopped caring over a year ago, that, you know, I forgot exactly what Joe Merrick was arguing. But yeah, the asset IDs, that's when it was national dex until Generation 6, then changed. We still don't have Generation 6 asset IDs for Pokemon Go, so we don't even know. And it looks like this argument wasn't even valid to begin with. Like, let's do Occam's Razor. With Meltan coming in a new generation of consoles, in a weird in-between kind of game, that I don't disagree, that Pokemon Let's Go is a main series game. Even if it is a main series game, it's kind of in its own generational limbo as well. So we have a new Pokemon being shown to be separate from Generation 7, because it wasn't in Pokemon Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, it didn't have any Generation 7 promotion like that, and then has a lot of presence in Generation 8. Maybe it's a Generation 8 Pokemon. But he was like so fixated on the asset IDs that he just kind of camped with it and committed for it forever. You know, don't forget, regional Pokedexes do not reflect national dex. Meltan can be 152 in Kanto and 808 in National. Well, also, it can be 808 in National and still be Generation 8, because that's what Victini did. Victini comes before any other Pokemon in Generation 5 in the National Dex, and is still considered a Generation 5 Pokemon. So yeah, through the TCG, we did get Meltan's National Dex number. Also, Joe Merrick can't let it go a year later. This is 2019 now. Oh, look at Meltan hanging with his fellow Generation 7 Pokemon. Well, what about this tweet? Oh man, look at Meltan hanging out with his fellow Generation 8 Pokemon. It's not like Meltan was a big part of Ash in the Generation 7 anime, and a Pokemon, like a next generation Pokemon appearing in the anime, that happens incredibly frequently. That's well known and well established inside of Pokemon, so that doesn't give you any proof for Generation 7. So then we also know the Pokedex number thanks to the TCG as well as Go. And Pokemon Go is really weird because it does have the Pokedex number, so 808, 809. This doesn't necessarily mean that's tacked in at the end of the Generation 7 Dex because of Victini, and also just because the National Dex has already been in a really weird spot. But when you actually get into Pokemon Go for the region, it's listed as unknown. So what this all boils down to is that we're taking a data mine from a spin-off game not developed by Game Freak that hasn't even caught up generationally, so there's inconsistencies to determine the placement of a main series Pokemon that hasn't been given an official main series classification because of the weirdness going on with the National Dex. How much of that can we take exactly at face value to prove that Meltan is a Generation 7 Pokemon? Kinda tough right there. Seems like Joe Merrick is going for the stretch. And then, yeah, wasn't trying to be subtle on this one. Been waiting a year to finally end this discussion. Looks like the discussion wasn't ended at that one, Joe Merrick, because once again, if it looks like a duck and talks like a duck, I think it's a duck. And Meltan was always looking like a Generation 8 Pokemon, especially through the release of Pokemon Sword and Shield, where now we have Melmetal getting a Gigantamax form, and also some kind of significance being tied in with Meltan. And one thing we can see is that Joe Merrick has actually committed to this since May of 2018, not even September of 2018. So he was on this since the announcement of Pokemon Let's Go. One thing I've noticed people saying is that the new Pokemon to be in Let's Go is a Gen 8 Pokemon. That's not really how it works. So he's already convinced he was going to find a way, no matter what, that once this mystery Pokemon was revealed, that it was going to be considered a Generation 7 Pokemon by him, because he'd made up his mind months before. And Joe Merrick, he can't admit when he's wrong, so he pretty much like set himself up for failure this long ago. Kind of crazy. Then replying to people, who says it's a Generation 8 Pokemon? So he replies to someone that's trying to call a Generation 8 Pokemon, and then immediately tweets it out, because that's another thing that Joe Merrick does, is that if he sees like 1 or 2 people disagree with him, he makes like a massive tweet to get people thinking on his side, because he has a lot of fanfare, he has a lot of blind followers and stuff like that, and that's just with the Cerebi name. So that's how he also does other witch hunts on other people, not just me. He also recently witch hunted Distant Kingdom, and he's done it to a lot of other people as well. So Joe Merrick is definitely abusing his power very frequently at this point. And then the movies are relevant to this. So I made my movie argument back in June. Already disagreed with that. They wouldn't, because it's not Generation 8, and neither is the Pokemon in it. And then condescension, P-face. So, Joe Merrick. What else is there to say? Because I mean, we can keep like looking for these things. How is it in limbo? This is a train of thought I can't comprehend. So once again, apparently, you know, he's allowed to struggle with not understanding what people's arguments are, because he can only be right, but no one else is afforded that. It was revealed before Generation 8. It was revealed to be available in main series game before Generation 8. We didn't have these discussions with Poipole, etc., so I can't comprehend why we're having them now, because Poipole was an Ultra Beast. And Ultra Beast was the Generation 7 gimmick. Also, it was a part of Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, which were direct follow-ups to Pokemon Sun and Moon. Pokemon Let's Go kind of existed in its own weird space, and then Meltan got a lot of special treatment, because with the trailer it said you'll meet a special new Pokemon. People were speculating, you know, new evolution or something like that because of Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. Either way, it was a new Pokemon very late in a generational cycle, and we've seen that Pokemon very late in generational cycles tend to be next generation. Meltan not being any different, Magearna, etc. So I mean, we have had these discussions. We had this discussion with Magearna earlier that generation. Poipole was clear to be Generation 7, and then remember, new Pokemon equals new generation, guys. And then I think Joe Merrick, he like really got in his own head, because he came up with this one argument and he just stuck to it, even though it's pretty stupid. Basically, it's available in a main series game between the start of Generation 7 and the start of Generation 8. It's pretty clear cut. Still speculating, but based on it being a main series game between the start of Generation 7 and the start of Generation 8, plus the sequence it's in terms of asset numbers, it appears to be Generation 7. So yeah, he went from like appears to be, and they just started saying it's Generation 7. And it's weird when he's like, I'm not saying this is fact, but anyone that disagrees with, I'm going to get in an argument with, I'm going to just start throwing my logic at them. So yeah, Let's Go as a main series game between the start of Generation 7 and the start of Generation 8. So it looks like he got that one zinger. Got him! I'm gonna call him a narcissist. I'm done with you. And it's between the start of generations. Therefore, I am only right. So that is what's happened with Joe Merrick. I really wanted to do this video to see his response, but I guess now we just kind of get to enjoy it and interpret it in our own ways together when that happens. So that's the saga of Meltan being a Generation 8 Pokemon. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.